Welcome to Beyond the Pages. Join us as we embark on a journey through time and wisdom while we unpack Bible stories together.
Welcome to Beyond the Pages. My name is Debbie and my mom is here as well. And we just want to thank you for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate it. And we also want to remind you about that with every episode, we have a study guide for each of the characters, and you can find that link in the show notes. This episode, we're going to be talking about the story of Mary and Martha. The story of Mary and Martha teaches us about the importance of balancing service with spending time in God's presence. And I'm going to ask my mom to read.
I'll be reading Luke 10:38 to 42. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her."
So in this story, there are a bunch of characters, but we're only going to focus on three: Mary, Martha, and Jesus. So what's happening in the beginning of the story?
So Jesus and his disciples were going somewhere, right? And so they came to a village, and we know that Mary and Martha are friends with Jesus and his disciples. So they were passing by the village, and I'm assuming Martha found out that Jesus and the disciples were in town, and so she invited him over.
So she invited them over, but it says in verse 38, as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. So I know that Mary and Martha are Jesus' friends, but it says to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. Why do they say a woman named Martha? Maybe they weren't friends yet, or...
I think they were already friends at this point.
Okay. So when Jesus arrives, Martha had called Mary, I'm assuming, to help with the preparations. And Martha was so distracted by all of the preparations that she didn't go with Jesus. So
think about if somebody comes to your house, you have a guest that's going to come to your house. And if you have noticed that they're going to come, say you know they're going to be here in a week.
Yeah.
You have time to prepare. And what are some of the preparations? Think about when we have friends at home, right? We have friends over. What are some of the things that we do?
We have to clean. We have to make food. And yeah, we have to get everything all nice. And
we have to clean the bathrooms. We have to make sure the beds have clean sheets. The towels are ready. Because we want to make sure that when people come to our house, we want to make sure that they have the best experience. And sometimes we even clean stuff that only we think about. Like when guests come, they don't really look at your floors are dirty or your...
They don't point that out.
They don't point that out, but we want to make sure that when guests come, everything is perfect, right? And so when you have time, then that's fine. You have plenty of days to get ready. But it seems like in this story that maybe Martha didn't have a lot of time
to prepare. So let's say she only had like 15 minutes to get ready. I wonder if Mary was helping her get ready for that time, because I feel like you would have to get dressed, start baking the food, and all of that. So when Jesus came, Martha was still like making the food and finishing up cleaning, and Mary just sat at Jesus' feet listening to Jesus talking. So I wonder what Martha was making. If you have the Jesus over and you only have like 15 minutes to get ready, I wonder what she would have made in that little time.
I don't know. I guess Martha, it seems like Martha was the type of person who was ready. And I'm pretty sure that she had something
Mhm.
um, quick to make.
Yeah.
And maybe she had something in the fridge, right? Maybe she had something already pre-prepared and she only had to reheat it. But maybe it wasn't only about the food. Maybe she still had to get stuff cleaned and
Yeah.
washed and stuff like that.
And it was like Martha was the only one like helping to clean and helping to get everything ready while Mary was just sitting, you know? So Martha must have been like, I guess, frustrated that Mary didn't come and like offer to help. But Jesus was was talking to Mary, and I wonder what they were talking about. That Mary was taking the time off to not help.
Well, remember in the beginning, we said that Mary and Martha were friends with Jesus and the disciples.
Mm-hmm.
And the disciples and Jesus they were going somewhere. They were probably coming from preaching or talking to people. Um, Jesus had been healing people. And so maybe Jesus was telling them stories of what had happened
Mm-hmm.
to them in the next town they were
Mm-hmm.
in. And because they were friends, Mary was asking questions. Maybe she will tell me more and what
Mm-hmm.
happened and
Yeah.
you did what? You healed this person
Yeah.
and how did that happen? I think that's probably what the conversation was.
Yeah. So while Martha was getting ready, Mary was just sitting there, and then Martha got frustrated enough that she actually went to Jesus and she said, "Lord, don't you care that don't you see that I'm doing all this by myself? Like, why don't you send Mary to help me?" And how they phrased that, I think that Martha might have went to Mary before and asked her like, "Hey, can you come help me?" Because if I think about if I was like listening, if I was talking to someone and my mom would come and tell me like, "Okay,
Come help me and do
mm-hmm,"
something. Mm-hmm.
I don't think she would go to the person I'm talking to and tell him or her, "Hey, like, can you tell Debbie to come and help me?" So I think she might have told or asked Mary to come and help her before she went and asked Jesus.
I think this shows, you're right. I think it shows two things. One, because she was frustrated for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Because she comes to him and says, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself?
Yeah.
Tell her to help me. So I think this shows two things. One is what we were talking about in the beginning. They had to have been friends because she trusts him enough to complain, right? Because you don't just complain to a stranger like that. So they had to have that kind of trust for her to whine and complain to him. So
Mhm.
that's number one. And number two, she feels frustrated.
Yeah.
She feels overwhelmed because I think she's the type of person that really wants to give her best. She
Mhm.
wants, Jesus is here, he's our friend, the disciples are here, they're our friends. The house has to be ready. Like
Yeah.
we have to cook, we still have to clean. The bathrooms are clean yet.
Mhm.
You know, the sheets are hanging in the clothesline. We have to, who's
Yeah.
going to do all this? I can't do it all by myself. So I think she was frustrated and she was overwhelmed with everything that she thought
Yeah.
needed to be done.
And so in verse 41, Jesus says, "Martha, Martha, You are worried and upset about so many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. So I wonder what Mary was thinking when Martha just, because Mary was sitting at Jesus' feet, and Martha walks in from the kitchen. She's probably dirty from cleaning the bathrooms and finishing the food. So she's dirty, she's a mess, and Mary's just sitting there listening. And then Martha just tells Jesus, Lord, don't you care that I'm doing all this by myself? I wonder what Mary was thinking when she looks up and she's like, really, Martha?
If I was Mary,
Mm-hmm.
I would be so embarrassed
Yeah.
and a little bit mad.
Yeah.
I would be embarrassed because I would say that's not the way we
Yeah.
treat guests. And I would also be upset that Martha brought this up in front of him.
Yeah.
I would be really upset. I don't know what Mary thought. Maybe she was embarrassed as well. Or maybe she was ready to say, okay, Jesus, give me 2 minutes. Let me go help my sister. Because
Yeah.
she seems a little mad. Maybe that's what she was thinking. How would you feel if you were Mary?
I think I would be like mad. Like you said, I'd be mad that she brought this up in front of him. Like she couldn't say, Mary, can you come real fast? I need you to help me with this, you know? She like I think she yelled. Like she was not yelling at Jesus like mad. She was like, Lord, like don't you care? Like she's not doing anything. So I'd be mad, I'd be embarrassed, I'd be like okay, I wasn't doing that, you know?
I think that even though a lot of the times when we retell this story, and in books that I've read about this story,
Mhm.
a lot of the times we tend to criticize Martha
Mhm.
because of the actions that she took.
Yeah.
Because at first glance, it seems like maybe she was being disrespectful and
Mhm.
maybe she was out of place. That wasn't the tone,
Yeah.
that wasn't the time. But if you really think about it, who is the best person that we should bring our cares to, our frustrations to, our anger? Is Jesus. Like
Mhm.
he's the one. And so I think that Martha, even though we might not see it like the correct thing to do, I think in a sense she said what she was feeling,
Yeah.
and she said it to the person who could do something about it,
Mhm.
right? And so even though it might not have been the best route,
Uh-huh.
I think she did the right thing.
Maybe she should have done it but more subtle. Like she shouldn't have said it like that, you know? But I think all all Mary wanted to do was just listen to Jesus, right? So I don't think Martha should have been that angry, but I do think she should have been a little like I think she should have gone to Mary and been like, "Okay, like can you help me just do
Well,
this
maybe
and then
she
I'll
did.
go."
Maybe she did. And that's why she was so mad.
Yeah.
Maybe she had, Mary, can you come here? Mary, third
Uh-huh.
time. I think that's what happened. I think she was just so frustrated. She had it.
Mhm.
And and she did what she thought she had to do,
Mhm.
And again, I think I'm of the opinion that maybe she sounded harsh, but I think she said what she needed to say, and she
Yeah.
said it to the right person.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes we in our lives, because we want to sound nice, we don't want to get on people's nerves. We don't, but sometimes we have to vent or let our frustrations out. And who better to do it than with Jesus,
Mhm.
who can do something about it? Right now, it says that I think Jesus's answer is so wonderful
Yeah.
because he doesn't, maybe Martha was expecting, what do you think Martha was expecting for him to say?
I think she was expecting like Jesus to say like, "Mary." like, go help your sister. Like,
Yeah.
she's been waiting. She asked you. I heard her. She asked you 3 times already, and she's waiting for you to go and help her.
Yeah, I think I think that's exactly what Martha wanted. And I think that's such a parent
Yeah.
response. Like, I think that would be something I would say
Yeah.
if you're supposed to be getting ready, your brother's supposed to be helping you and he's not. I think that would be my answer.
Yeah.
I'd be like, Poncho, go help your sister. Like, she's called you 3 times.
Yeah.
Do it. We're a family. We have to,
Yeah.
Okay, so, but Jesus's answer was so beautiful and so patient. He says, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. What do you think he was referring to?
I feel like he was talking about how I'm not going to be here forever. I'm like, you could just take a moment to come and listen. And then I think you feel more like patient. Like, there's only one thing that you should do is to come and listen to me and be calm.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Jesus wasn't saying cleaning is not important, cooking is not important, getting the house ready is not important. I don't think that's what he was saying at all. I think what he meant was, in this precise moment,
Yeah.
there's only one thing that's important. I'm not exactly what you said. I'm not going to be here forever. Right now, I have something to share with you, and I'm leaving soon.
Yeah.
And if you don't hear it, you're going to miss it. We can get to the food later. We'll get takeout.
Yeah.
We'll help you clean. Don't worry. There's a bunch of the disciples are here. We'll do it together. But right now, what's important is to be with me, to spend time with me.
And like you just said, that the disciples are here. It says in verse 38, Jesus and his disciples were on their way. So I wonder if right when Martha invited Jesus, she invited the disciples too, which is what I'm assuming. Or the disciples were like, yeah, I'm going to go visit my mom. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. If they separated after that, or if they actually came with Jesus. So I wonder if they were with Mary. Like in videos and in Bible stories, it doesn't show that they were with Mary or with Martha.
It only shows Jesus. Yeah.
So
I don't know, but maybe because they were also there, that made her more overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Because it's like,
'cause
okay, there's a
more.
bunch of people.
A bunch of like teenage boys waiting for their food. Like, they're hungry.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
I wonder what made Mary go and sit with Jesus and say, like, hold on, Martha. Like, when Martha called her, like, I wonder what made her say, hold on, Martha. Like, he's getting to the good part.
That's a good question. I think that there comes a point in our lives where we have to be able to determine what's priority in a specific moment, right? Because again, the cleaning is important.
Yeah.
The making the food, that's important as well. But how do you determine that right now, this is what's important?
Yeah.
And I think that she had that discernment, like she felt that.
Yeah.
She knew in her heart that we haven't seen Jesus. Maybe we haven't seen Jesus in a while. He's telling us about all these wonderful things that he's doing.
Yeah.
And all the miracles that I don't want to miss that. I don't want to miss listening to that. I know he's not going to be here for long. He's going to leave, and I don't know when we're going to see him again. So I think she had that in her heart, and she followed what she was thinking. And sometimes I think it can happen to us where we know that we should be doing something. You know, maybe the Holy Spirit is putting something in your heart to do.
Yeah.
But there's pressures outside, right? Outside pressures that are telling you, yeah, but you still have to do your homework and you still have to clean your room and make your bed and wash your clothes. And so you have to take a moment and say, I feel like right now I need to pray. I need to, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but if somebody comes to your mind and you wonder, why is this person coming to my mind? That's happened to me before. I feel like I should pray for that person.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that moment, do I step away from whatever I'm doing and go pray for that person? Or
Mm-hmm.
but I have to make food for the kids, and I have to help them with their work, and I have to wash. So how do you decide?
Yeah. So another thing is that what I think is really like a cliffhanger, I guess, is that verse 42 is the end of this story. So it says, Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. I wonder what Martha said to his answer. Like when he said, like, Martha, Martha, you are worried about so many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Right. So I wonder what her reaction was.
Mhm.
If it was like, okay, Lord, I'll listen to
You're
you,
right.
or really,
Uh-huh.
like, why would you say that?
Well, I think that that's something, of course, the Bible doesn't say what happened, but I would want to think that she realized and she said, you know what? You're right. We can do that later. We can take care of that later.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It was, my attitude wasn't the best.
Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, Mary.
And Jesus, please tell us. I hope
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
I hope. But it could also be that she sat down and said, okay, I'm sorry. But inside, she
She's
was
like,
still
really,
thinking.
Jesus?
It could be. But I think more than what she decided to do is what you and I, and
Mm-hmm.
the people that are listening, what do we decide to do in a moment like that?
Yeah. So I feel like we should always turn back to like what is right, and we should always think, okay, like we should say sorry and really mean it. Like, you've got to realize that you're wrong, and I think sometimes you've got to admit it, that you're wrong about that, you use the wrong attitude, or because sometimes when you do that, you say like, okay, but you were talking to me first like that. Like, I have the right to do this, I have the right to do that. Like, I'm able to do this because Mary wasn't helping me, you know? So I feel like we should always remember that even when we're overwhelmed or we're doing a bunch of stuff, we should always remember what's first. That we should always pray, and we should always enjoy the time. Obviously, that Jesus might not come to our house. He might not sit here for dinner.
Physically.
But we should always remember that if we were in that situation, what would we do? Would we be a Mary or a Martha?
That's a good question. That's a good question because Martha had good qualities. She was practical. She was concerned with serving
Mm-hmm.
the master and his disciples.
Yeah.
She wanted to give them the very best.
Mm-hmm.
And Mary was attentive. She was devoted. She was eager, and she wanted
Yeah.
to learn from Jesus. So they both have good qualities,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think that we can have a little bit of both. We can have a little bit of Martha in the sense that we want to be hospitable, we want to be practical, and we want to serve people and give the best that we can.
Yeah.
But we also want to be attentive to his voice. And if we need to stop doing that and pray or read or call someone on the phone,
Yeah.
then we do. So I think it's a balance of both, not just, well, I'll be Mary or I'll
Yeah.
just be Martha. I think it's just about finding a balance and just being attent to what's priority in that specific moment.
Psalms 46:10 says, "Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth."
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Pages. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and make sure to hit the subscribe button. Until next time, Stay curious and keep those conversations going because every story is an adventure waiting to be explored.